Yeah. Don't you see that I need you so?
What is going on, guys? TJ here with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports to bring you tonight's four-game NBA slate. Another 7:30 tip-off. That's two in a row. I am alongside myself again. Matt is MIA. I don't know where he is. I guess he just took off all weekend, just leaving me in the dust. No, Matt is enjoying some well-deserved time off. Oh, that's loud. Okay, that's playing through my phone. I'm really good at doing this by myself, clearly. No, but I appreciate you guys coming in. I know there is some playoff football going on right now. We have 62 of you in here. Fantastic. You guys are incredible. Yeah, I know there's some football going on, so I appreciate you guys taking some time out of that game. I know it is halftime still. Yeah, 19-10. We get the Packers up. So, yeah, let's not, get too bogged down. Let's go ahead and dive into tonight's four-game slate. There is some injury news that we are still kind of pending. We just got word that Gordon Hayward is now officially probable in that Charlotte-Toronto game, which is nice. I had run numbers for Hayward being off and on the floor, so I did come prepared. But it looks like he is going to be good to go against Toronto. So that is some news that we were pending. So we do have Charlotte and Toronto as game one starting at 7:30. Toronto currently 7-point favorites. We have Detroit and Miami. Now, a lot of those Miami guys that have been missing for the last week due to COVID concerns are back. So we got Bam back in the mix. We have Dragic back in the mix. Kendrick Nunn is back in the mix. Who else? Who else am I missing? Vincent got hurt, but he's okay. So we do have some significant guys back in terms of the COVID news. But again, we still have some guys that are going to be out in this game. Miami currently 5.5-point favorites over Detroit. Tyler Hero's out. I think it was the neck with Tyler Hero. Yeah, it was his neck that's bothering him, so he's out. We still have Jimmy Butler out, Avery Bradley out, and Myers Leonard out. So some value here in Miami. On the Detroit side of the ball, just Killian Hayes still out. Frank Jackson, not really too much of a concern in terms of usage or anything like that. So that is the 8 o'clock game. We have another 8 o'clock game between Philly and Memphis. In terms of Memphis, we're still pending John Morant. He was questionable last night against Minnesota. But, that game got postponed because of the COVID news from Minnesota. So, prayers out to Cat. I know he's dealt through a lot with coronavirus. It kind of stinks that he tested positive, but hopefully everything goes well with him. Speedy recovery there. But with Philly, we got a lot of value because the big man, Joel Embiid, down low, is going to be out. I think he's going to miss 2 games. Mike Scott also out from that last game against Miami, and Seth Curry still out, Korkmaz as well. So yeah, definitely some value here in Philly. Right now, Memphis 1-point favorites at home in a decent sized over under the second highest on the slate, obviously a 4-game slate, because then we have this Atlanta-Portland game, which has the highest over under currently at 234.5. Blazers currently 5-point favorites, and we do have some value on that Trailblazers side of the ball because Nurkic is out with the wrist injury. I think he's out 8 weeks. So definitely some value here. In terms of Atlanta, Bogdanovich, Dunn, and Gallinari still out. We did just get news about an hour and a half ago that Reddish, I think it was his knee, is now questionable. So if he's out, that opens up a little bit of value on Atlanta side. Trey is going to be good to go. So I really like targeting this game as well for Atlanta and Toronto. Atlanta and Portland. I think there's a lot of value here. I just got really scared that my mic wasn't unmuted that whole time. That would have been bad. I would have just been sitting here talking and no one would have been able to hear me. So yeah, guys, a lot of value on the slate. So let's go ahead and dive in. One thing I do want to say is, somebody just mentioned it. LeVert out indefinitely with a small mass on his kidney. I don't know if it's a blessing in disguise, I guess, because of the trade. He had to get the physical, the MRI, and they were able to find that. So, it's really unfortunate for LeVert, and I hope, they figure that out and he gets that removed and a speedy recovery over there because that's just super unfortunate for him. I feel like he was about to have an opportunity to play, on a nice playoff team and actually be a big piece. So hopefully he gets that, squared away and he's back sooner rather than later. So we're going to start with the 7:30 game, Charlotte and Toronto. We do now have the news that Gordon Hayward is probable. So these were the numbers up top here. If Gordon Hayward was going to be out, I was going to say I really like Caleb Martin at 3,500. I would have projected him at around 24 minutes. I think Biz would have been a decent play. I think all these guys would have been tournament plays. We saw this last game with Hayward off the floor. They, another series, I will call it, between Toronto, seeing as they just played. I would have liked all these guys for tournaments. But now in terms, with Gordon Hayward being here, don't really have too much interest. I think PJ Washington, even still at 6,400, is a decent tournament play. I will have interest in Hayward as well. But yeah, only tournament plays here. We got LaMelo Ball creeping up to the 8K range. Finally to a price point where I'm kind of like, all right, like maybe his ownership might be a little bit lower, than we've been seeing night in and night out. So yeah, it's something to keep track of. I mean, he might make it to like the mid 8K range, honestly. He's just been playing that consistent off the bench for Charlotte. So yeah, no interest here in terms of cash. So we'll go check out Toronto. Again, in terms of cash, I don't really have any interest here. I do like Siakam and Boucher in terms of tournaments. Boucher, again, still pops on the sheet even at 6,900. He's a 1.4 fantasy point per minute, 21.5% usage rate. Even though he's not starting, he's still seeing a lot of minutes. As you can see over these last few games, he's been playing right around 30. Well, between Charlotte and Portland, and then before that Golden State game that blew out 29 against Sacramento. So in competitive games where he's staying out of foul trouble, he's been fantastic. Good matchup against Charlotte. Just proved that he can, bang down low with these guys. Last game against Charlotte where he went for 48.5 Draftkings points. Don't expect the same exact type of production, but I think he can get there if he plays, the right type of game. So I do like Boucher as a tournament play. I obviously like Siakam as well. Attacking bigs on Charlotte is something that I personally like to do. So I do like these guys for tournaments again. But in terms of cash, I think I'm going to be all set because Philly is a team that I am definitely looking to attack. So I went ahead and I ran some numbers. We have Seth Curry off, we have Mike Scott, and we have Embiid, obviously the big guy being out. So there's some value to go around here, and there's some usage to go around here too. And when I really looked into it, Tobias Harris is the guy that I am definitely going to be rostering tonight in cash, and the numbers say it all, right? He gets a 6.5% usage bump with the guys like I just mentioned, Seth, Korkmaz, Mike Scott, and Embiid off the floor. He's a 1.44 fantasy point per minute, 26.6% usage rate. I currently have him pegged for 52 minutes. Believe that was around an 82-minute sample size too, so a pretty healthy sample size. So I really like Tobias Harris just with Embiid off the floor. I mean, and just adding Seth and, minutes that Mike Scott might potentially get, Korkmaz, what have you. I just think that makes him an even better play. So I really like Tobias Harris at 7,500. I think Danny Green is in play in terms of tournaments. I don't really have too much interest in him in cash, but he gets a 5.2% usage bump. He's a 0.91 fantasy point per minute and a 22% usage rate. Shake Milton is a guy that I am interested in, and I think you can go there as a last piece in cash at 5,200. I think he is still very cheap. He gets a 7.5% usage bump with Embiid, Seth Curry off the floor, 1.06 fantasy point per minute. Currently have him pegged for almost 31 DraftKings points. So I do like Milton if you are landing there in cash. I just want to see the ownerships right now. Okay, so Dwight Howard is currently carrying the most ownership, right, and rightfully so. I think Maxey is in play too, 3.4% usage bump. 1.12 fantasy point per minute, 1.12, yep. 26% usage rate. Got the start last game. I would expect him to start again against Miami. Didn't really mesh, I guess, too well in terms of production being alongside these guys, but that game did blow out, so I'm not going to put too much stock into it. I do like Maxey. More of a tournament play for me, though. I think I'd rather go to Milton if I am looking there in cash. Dwight Howard, going to be a lock for me in cash tonight at 4,300, currently projected at 25 minutes. He's a 1.12 fantasy point per minute. It is a good matchup against Memphis and Valanciunas down low. So I do like Dwight Howard as a cash piece at 4,300. I think it's a good building block. I think it's a nice value and salary saver as well. Tony Bradley is a guy that I'm going to not load up on, but be very interested in the tournaments, because if Dwight Howard gets into foul trouble, those backup center minutes will go to Tony Bradley tonight. He's a 1.42 fantasy point per minute with Embiid, Korkmaz, Mike Scott, and Seth Curry off the floor. So if Dwight does find himself in foul trouble and Tony Bradley can get 22 minutes, I mean, he would be pegged at 28 DraftKings points. So we're talking 9 times value. So I am going to try and exploit that. And if he's showing 10% ownership, 11% ownership in tournaments, that's a piece that I want to have, especially at 3K. I think he's a really good pump play tonight for tournaments. So I have a lot of interest here in terms of cash. On the other side of the ball with Memphis, we are still pending Ja. If he's going to play or not, that is going to be huge. If he's in, I'll take stabs at him in tournaments. He's a 1.52 fantasy point per minute with Jaren Jackson, Porter, and Justice Winslow, who hasn't played this year, off the floor. So I'll have interest in him as long as he isn't on a minute restriction. I guess his minutes got pegged to 26, so I guess that makes that's probably a little more realistic. So no, hi buddy. So yeah, I think in terms of Memphis, it's gonna be tournament plays. I have no interest here in cash. I would take some shots at Ja and Val if Ja is playing in terms of tournaments, but nothing cash. Detroit, the other 8 o'clock game. Again, no interest in cash. If I'm looking for GPP plays, it is going to be Grant. Again, 1.15 fantasy point per minute, and he can play, upwards of, high 30s in terms of minutes, especially if it's competitive against Miami. No Butler, no Hero. We could see that. They are only 5.5 point dogs right now. Let's refresh Fantasy Labs and see what we're working with, boys and girls. 5.5 point dogs right now. So might be relatively competitive. So I do like Grant as a tournament play. I wouldn't hate going to Mason Plumlee either for tournaments, but in terms of cash, no interest here for me. I guess you can go Derrick Rose if you want to at 5,200 with no Killian Hayes. Hasn't played in a little bit here, over a week, so I don't hate it. But at the same time, I think Grant and Plumlee are going to be my 2 favorite tournament plays, and I don't have any interest here. But on the other side of the ball, I do have a lot of interest, and these guys are not showing as high of ownership. I just want to refresh just in case. As high of ownership as I kind of thought they would. I don't know if it's because they haven't played in a week and, they're kind of falling by the wayside, but I do have some serious interest in these Miami Heat. With Jimmy Butler, with Avery Bradley, with Hero, and with Myers Leonard off the floor. Bam gets a 4.5% usage bump and is a 1.58 fantasy point per minute and a 28.4% usage rate. And what I did here, do I have it up still? My tabs. You guys can't see my tabs, right? No, you can't. Okay, no, I don't have. Don't you? I don't have the court IQ that I ran, but what I did is I ran numbers for the last 2 years, and so I had to take off Crowder from last year, and I had to take off who was in Miami that isn't there anymore. TJ, use your brain. I can't remember who else it was. But yeah, big usage bump to Bam. Huge fantasy point per minute at 1.58. So I honestly don't hate him in cash at 8,600. There are some other plays that I think I want to prioritize, but I think he is in play. Honestly, my honest opinion is I wouldn't feel bad rostering him at 8,600. I think that's a good price with no hero and with no Jimmy Butler. So I do like Bam. I really like Goran Dragic. He's only projected 27 minutes now. So, we'll call it 26 to be safe. He gets a 4.3% usage bump. He should start at the point. And if he does, I really like him at 5,700. He's a 1.27 fantasy point per minute with all the guys that I said off the floor. 30% usage rate, which is the highest on the team. So I love Dragic at 5,700. I think Vincent's in play. He's going to be good to go. If he starts as well alongside Dragic in the backcourt, I like him at 5K. He's played very well in the wake of all the COVID news that Miami has had surrounding him. He obviously has had the price increase. The only thing I am a little weary of is, he's been in the backcourt, not with a guy like Goran Dragic. He's been there with Tyler Hero, so I guess Tyler Hero is more of a high usage guy. So, I think I have some interest in Vincent. He's a 4.5% usage bump with these guys off the floor, 0.91 fantasy point per minute. If I had to prioritize, I would rather go to Dragic over Vincent, but I do have some interest there. And then Kendrick Nunn at 3K, showing 21 minutes right now. He's a 0.9 fantasy point per minute with all these guys off the floor. Jimmy Butler, Hero, Myers Leonard, Avery Bradley. So I kind of like Nunn as a punt. He's only showing 13% ownership. I'm going to utilize that in tournaments because if Vincent comes out and he's flat, Nunn's going to get some time. And, he's very cheap. And if he plays 20 minutes, I think he can easily pay off this price tag. So those are the guys that I'm most interested in for the Miami Heat. Kelly Olynyk, he is priced up, so I'm not really too interested in him. Duncan's going to get a lot of minutes, so I guess I wouldn't mind going to him in tournaments, but no interest in cash. Bam, Dragic, and are cash options for me, in my eyes. They're not carrying the ownership, so I think there are smarter plays, but I think you can go there. And again, Vincent, I think, is more of a tournament play. But then Kendrick Nunn, man, at 3K, I'm going to keep my eye on that. So let's go ahead and move on to this late game. We got Atlanta and Portland, guys. The highest over-under on the slate by far, currently sitting at around 232, 234.5. So 234.5. It's got shootout written all over it. On the Atlanta side of the ball, we got to keep an eye on Cam Reddish. If Cam Reddish is out, that opens up some minutes. I don't know if Goodwin will get some more time or they'll give some time to Rondo in the backcourt with Trae Young. I'm not too sure where those minutes will get dispersed to, but it's something I want to keep an eye on. If you're playing tournaments, you can try and, roster construct and see if you can get sneaky if Reddish is ruled out and get somebody sub 3% ownership. I wouldn't build around it in cash, obviously, because he's not too significant of a player. But if Reddish is good to go, obviously Trae Young in tournaments, I feel like I keep talking about him and he just keeps having pretty mediocre to below par games. But it's a really high over-under. He's 8,900 again. He's sub 9K. So I'll have interest in him in tournaments. I don't think I'm going to go there in cash. I do like Capella again at 6,700, especially with no Nurkic going up against Kanter. I think that's a really good matchup for these bigs and Collins and Capella. And his Kanter is very good offensively, but a defensive liability. So I do like these bigs for Atlanta. I do kind of have some interest in Kevin Huerter. This is a shooters type game, I think. So, I think if he can knock down some threes, you can pay off that price tag. So I do like him for tournaments. In terms of cash, though, I'm not really too interested in Atlanta. I have some more interest in Portland. If I am going anywhere for Atlanta, it is going to be Kevin Huerter. He pops the most on the sheet and makes the most sense to me at 5,100, seeing north of 30 minutes. He's a 0.92 fantasy point per minute. So nothing too crazy, but I think this is a pretty good game for the Atlanta shooters. And on the other side of the ball, Dame, CJ, and Enes Kanter all carrying pretty high ownership. And I do like all of them if you are landing there in cash. Obviously, Dame with Nurkic. Who else do we have out? Nurkic and Collins. LB really hasn't been too much of a usage guy, so I'm not too concerned with that. With just Nurkic off the floor, Dame gets a little bit of a usage bump, as you see here, almost a 1%. He's a 1.33 fantasy point per minute and a 30.3% usage rate. Now, CJ McCollum has been fantastic to start the year. He's 8,300. He gets a 2.2% usage bump, and he's a 1.46 fantasy point per minute, 31.1% usage rate, which you see is a little bit higher than Dame's. So I'm very interested in CJ in terms of cash. I think you can go CJ and Dame if you want to. If I had to pick, I think I'd go CJ, honestly. But I like them both. So if you're landing there and you're rostering both Dame and CJ, I think it's totally viable. Enes Kanter is a guy that I'm very interested in as well. He is projected to start. I mean, they don't really have anybody else besides him and Giles. So if Cantor does start, which he should, and can play, I don't see him playing more than like 26 minutes. Honestly, I just don't know if he's capable of that. So I do like Cantor. I think he's a safe piece in cash. I think I'd rather go to Dwight Howard, but I think if you're rostering one of them at center, I don't hate it. I think that's where you're going to be between Dwight and Cantor. So I like both. And then Harry Giles. In terms of tournaments, again, another guy that's showing low ownership, like Kendrick Nunn, like we talked about, and like Tony Bradley. If Enes Kanter finds himself in foul trouble, Harry Giles is going to get those backup center minutes. And at 3,200, he's very productive with Nurk off the floor. He's a 1.19 fantasy point per minute and a 1.6% usage bump. Only a 17% usage rate, but that's fine for bigs. So I really like Harry Giles in that Nunn and Tony Bradley type punt tournament option. I think those are good, three really good less than 3,200 value plays on the slate tonight that can really benefit if guys get into foul trouble. So I think there's a lot of value here in Portland with Nurk being off the floor. I didn't talk about Covington, 4,800. I think he's viable as a last piece. I think Melo's viable as a last piece at 4,300. But my three favorites from this game are going to be Dame, CJ, or from this side of the ball are going to be Dame, CJ, and Cantor. And then I really like Harry Giles as a deep punt tournament play. So guys, that is the slate something of a whole. So that's kind of my general thoughts. If we update the ownership, let's see if we got anything else going on here. I want to see if those Miami guys, if those ownerships have come up at all. Man, I mean, I know it's a bit of, it's a little bit of a lower over under here between Miami and Detroit, but man, I think that's some good value with all those guys being out for Miami. So yeah, if we're looking at ownership right now, we have Dame currently showing the most at 42%, rightfully so. CJ, 37%, rightfully so. We get Dwight Howard currently 32%. Ben Simmons and Tobias. I lean Tobias, but Simmons at 8,400 is very cheap, so I do like that as well. Kyle Lowry showing the sixth most ownership at 7,700. Capella, we talked about the bigs going up against Cantor for Atlanta, so I do like them. Covington's up there at 4,800. We see Cantor down here at 5,600. So yeah, I think I touched based on most of the value. If I were to give you guys a cash core right now, I think it's going to be one of Dame and CJ. I know it's kind of broad, but I think it's going to be one of Dame and CJ. It's going to be one of Dwight Howard and Enes Kanter. I lean Dwight Howard. I am worried about him potentially getting into foul trouble. I think he's more foul prone than Kanter is. And it is a pretty good matchup for Kanter and a higher over under. So if you do land on Kanter, it's $1,300 more. So I really don't hate it. If you get both, I think that's viable as well. I think it's one of Ben Simmons and Tobias. I lean Tobias, but if you're landing Ben Simmons, I don't hate it. Again, and then honestly for me, guys, if Dragic is starting, I really like him. I really like Milton as long as he gets the start. Even if he's coming off the bench and plays 28 minutes, I do like him. So yeah, I think that's kind of where my general thought is in terms of cash. I think you're getting one or potentially two of Dame and CJ. I think you're getting one, potentially two of Simmons and Harris. I think you're getting one, potentially two of Dwight Howard and Enes Kanter. And then I think you're getting one of these Miami guys. And my favorite's going to be Dragic as long as he is starting, which I believe he will. So that's kind of where I'm at in cash. If we're looking at tournaments now, we're looking at guys that are just I mean, it's kind of crazy seeing the the most expensive guy on the slate at 9,200. I know it's only a 4-game slate, but it is pretty wild seeing that being the spend up spot. So I think you're going to see a lot of unique lineups tonight. If I'm looking at ownership and I'm trying to find some really deep tournament plays, I was going to say I really like Lowry, but at 25% owned, I like Grant at 7,400, currently showing 18% ownership. Let's bring up my sheet. We talked about the pump plays. We're going to take this away so I don't get confused because Gordo is probable. So Boucher is somebody I'm interested in tournaments still, 6,900, only showing 16% ownership. I like that. I have some interest here in Philly. We talked about Tony Bradley as a pump play. I like him. Maxey and Milton, they're not really showing too high of ownership, I believe. Maxey at 14, Milton at 14. I like them for tournaments. I talked about Tobias, obviously. Miami. I think Miami has a lot of value for tournaments, honestly. One of the lower over-unders on the slate, but, there are significant guys being out on that Miami side of the ball. I like Bam for tournaments. I like Dragic for tournaments. I like Dragic for cash, too, honestly, if you land there. I like Vincent for tournaments. And then again, none as a pump play like I just talked about with Tony Bradley. I like him. Talked about Atlanta, guys. I'm going to have some interest in Trae Young in terms of tournaments. I don't think I'll get there in cash. I think I'd rather go to Dame and CJ. Reddish, we got to keep an eye on because he is questionable. Kevin Huerter, I like for tournaments at 5,100. I do like these bigs in Capella. I lean Capella over Collins, but I think there's some value there in terms of tournaments as well. And then for Portland, Giles, again, I talked about Tony Bradley and none. Good punt play at 3,200. I'll have a lot of interest in CJ, obviously. I'll probably be overweight on CJ in terms of tournaments. And then I think you can go Covington in tournaments as well. And Melo, too. I would throw him in the mix there. So that is my thoughts for tonight's slate. We don't really have too many questions, guys. There's 164 of you in here. I appreciate you guys all being in here. Obviously, we have some playoff football going on. There's a commercial right now. I believe the Packers are still up. I can't see the TV over my my monitor, but that's okay. So, guys, if you have any questions, go ahead and rifle them off. I'm going to go ahead and check the Discord chat and see if we have any questions here. Might be a pretty quick stream, you know, in relativity to last night where I kind of just blabbed for 70 straight minutes. Let's see. We got a couple questions here. So, Sneaky, what do you got, Sneaky? Does playing CJ and Dame together limit upside? Yes, I think in tournaments, but in cash, no. I think you can go there. I really do. Bastone's got a lineup here. We got Ball, Vincent, McCollum, Maxey, Harris, Grant, Bradley, Bam, and Cantor. FanDuel single entry. Okay, if that's for tournaments, I do like that. Wayne asking for the cash core. So, Wayne, I haven't really honed in on my cash core 100%. Cash value plays, not much down there. Yeah, Sam, man, I agree. If I am talking for cash, I think, like I said, you're going one or potentially both of Dame and CJ. I think you're going one, potentially both of Dwight and Cantor. I think you're going one, potentially both of Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris. I lean Tobias. And then I really do like Goran Dragic. So I would be taking 4 of those guys that I just mentioned for cash. So I know it's a little broad. I named off 7 guys, but it's lineup construction, how you're going about it. In terms of value plays, though, Sandman, I think Dwight's a good value play at 4,300, obviously showing some ownership with Embiid being out. Covington is a decent value play at 4,800. And then I talked about those really cheap guys. I don't know if I trust them in cash. And none. Tony Bradley is definitely a tournament play. Giles is definitely a tournament play. If you're landing on none in cash, like, and you want to try and get different, I don't hate it, but his minutes aren't 100% secured, so I would tread lightly. I wouldn't go there. I think Dwight Howard probably in cash is the cheapest that I'm going to go. We got another lineup here from Colt. We got Milton, Tobias, Covington, Dwight, CJ, Herter, Van Vliet, and I can't see your point guard, Colt. That looks good for a single entry for sure. Van Vliet going to show pretty low ownership, so I think you're different there. So I do like that. I just don't know who the point guard is. Cash, we got Dragic, Milton, Herter, Tobias, Dwight, CJ, Bridges, and Dame. I don't know how I feel about Herter for cash, but I do like his upside. I'm just afraid that he could limit you in terms of cash. Bridges is somebody that I'm not on for cash, though. Bridges, last piece filler. Yeah, I'm not too high on Bridges for cash, especially with Hayward being probable. What else do we got here? Dragic or Maxey? I like Dragic. Boucher, last piece for cash. If you're landing on him, I don't hate him. I really don't. He just proved that he can, beat the Charlotte Bigs, and going up against him again, going to play 30 minutes if he stays out of foul trouble. Yeah, I don't hate him at 7K, really. He pops on the sheet. I think all signs point to him as a last piece in cash if you are landing there. The ownership is a little bit low here at 16%. So if he bites the dust, it might put you in a little bit of a pickle. But if he, balls out and hits for 6-7 times value, you're in a fantastic spot to cash. So I don't hate him. Milton or Maxey? I lean Milton. I like Milton. Lillard, Simmons, Herter, Graham, Hunter, Harris, Clark, Collins, Cantor. If that's for tournaments, I'm fine with that. If that's for cash, I do not like that. Trey, how much I trash? Trey for cash or play Dame CJ. If you have a hard stance on choosing between Dame and CJ and you want to go Trey with one of them, I don't hate it. But I think I'd rather go Dame and CJ, honestly. That's just my personal opinion. But again, if you feel strongly about Dame or strongly about CJ and you want to pair with Trey on the other side, I like that. So I think you can go either route, honestly. I don't mean for that to be a cop-out answer, but I think you can go either one. But I think it's more if you have a hard stance on CJ or Dame and who you think will have the better night tonight. Bam for cash. I don't hate it. I really don't. I'm really strong on believing in numbers and what they tell you. And looking at my sheet, it shows me that Bam's a really good play with, the guys off the floor like we talked about, with no Jimmy, with no Bradley, with no Hero, and with no Myers Leonard. So I don't hate Bam as the last piece in cash. He's showing 18% ownership right now, which is, it's up there. So, yeah, I don't hate it, really. Dame, CJ, Simons, Siakam, Giles, Dwight, Nunn, Kevin, Herter. If Reddish is in, switch to Rocco. Yeah, Jared, I like that if that's a tournament play. Collins or Boucher? Oh, God, that's tough. I think Collins has the better matchup. But I go Boucher. I like what I've seen from him as of late. Help with shooting guard spot on FanDuel for cash. Max, give me some options that you got, man. DSJ, let's obliterate some cheeks tonight, Poppy. I like that, man. Let's do it. Lowry or Simmons? I think I go Simmons. Oh, GPP. Oh man, they're both carrying some ownership, honestly. I still think I like Simmons more. Yeah, I think I would say Simmons. Yep. Oh, Ben Simmons, not Simons. Okay. Yeah, sorry. I don't know why I thought Simons for some reason. Yeah, no, Jared, I like that. We got a cash lineup here from Greg. We got Dragic, CJ, Tobias, Boucher, Dwight, Dame, Covington, Nunn. All right. I don't want people to get burnt on Nunn. That's why I like him more of a tournament play. He's not going to carry ownership. I would be surprised if he's north of like 10% owned. So when I'm talking about pump plays, I think I do like them more of tournament plays. And I don't want it to come back to bite you because you took a chance on a guy that could potentially see 20, 22 minutes and he only plays 15 and, he's a dud. So I think it's a safer option to run Kendrick Nunn in tournaments than it is for cash. Is the core going to stay the same? In terms of what I just reiterated between like those 7 guys, yeah, for me, that is going to stay the same. I know Matt's working on the sheet right now. That's my stance, though. Guards and forwards under 4K. Let's see what we got. So we'll check off everybody besides center. We will go by salary, and we'll see. Hey, Amanda, what's the score? My girlfriend is intently watching this Rams-Packers game. I think she was asleep. Jared Goff rolling out. I want to see what the score is. So sub 4K. Let's see. I don't hate Derek Jones at 3,600 if we're talking tournaments. What is it? 25-10 Packers. I don't hate Gary Trent. I think the upside's there. I think Trent and DJ would probably. I think one of them is going to have a big game. But I don't really like. I don't really like sub 4K honestly. Besides those really cheap guys that I've been talking about throughout this video. Only worry is having Dame, CJ, Rocco, and Giles. Is that too much? Yeah, but it's the highest over/under on the slate, and if that's for tournaments, I think that's going to be different than a lot of lineups. So, thank you, Mark, for that. Any Memphis for cash? Nah, not if Ja's in. So we have CJ at the top and Van Vliet. Then it's a drop off. Some options: Graham, Reddish, Brooks, Derrick Rose, Maxey. And you said this was just the shooting. Okay. I think CJ would probably be my favorite, and I think if you're going for a cheap option, I think it would be Tyrese Maxey. That's where I would go. You like Tillman for a last spot in tournaments? I don't hate it, but again, if Ja's back, that's gonna affect Tillman's minutes. No, it's not. I lied. So if you want to go there, sure. But I still think I have more interest in Giles or Tony Bradley potentially, especially with the guys that are starting in front of them and the foul trouble that they could see. All right, guys, I'm going to check the YouTube chat, see if we got anything here. And if not, I'm probably going to get off. Graham, last piece in cash. Not if Gordon Hayward is in. That's my honest opinion. Brady or none for punt and GPPs. Ooh, Grant. I think you – oh, man. I like both, Grant. I think I'd probably go Bradley. I think Bradley's going to see less minutes than Nunn, but I think his upside is huge if Dwight Howard gets into foul trouble. So I think I go Bradley. I do like Nunn though. I'd have shares in both honestly, especially if you're playing 20 lineups, 150, whatever it is. I like them both as pump plays. Herter or Maxi? I think you go Maxi for cash. I think you go Herter for tournaments. All right, guys, 138 of you. Appreciate you guys taking the time on this Saturday. I almost said Sunday. Appreciate you guys coming out during this football game. Still got 25-10 Packers. Looks like they're gonna move on here. But yeah, appreciate the time. Again, for cash tonight, I think the route that I said is a pretty safe one. I think you have one of Dame and CJ. If you want to go both, I think that's viable. I think you have one of Dwight and Canner. If you want to have both, I think that's viable as well. I think you have one of Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris. I personally lean Tobias. If you want to roster both here, I don't hate it. And then honestly, I do like Dragic in cash. Given he does start and play those 28 minutes. So that is my personal thoughts, guys. I hope you guys all have a fantastic night. If you could, please like and subscribe to the channel. And if you don't and you are subscribed, make sure you have that notification bell on. So when I go live, or me and Matt, or me, Matt and Kevin, or Kevin and me and Matt, or Chips, and whoever wants to go live in front of the camera, you get that notification. But I appreciate you guys coming out. I hope we all have a successful night. I will talk to you guys soon, and let's cash. End scene.